Greetings, everyone. Hopefully this will work. This is week number 2. I'm trying to do some live streams while I'm waiting on my daughter at her singing class, sitting here in the parking lot. So I thought we'd have some fun and frivolity once again. So thanks everybody for joining. Let me know how audio is coming through. Again, trying out the headset and trying to make sure that the audio is working correctly because I don't have the ability to check it for myself without everything crashing. It's quite bizarre, but hopefully things will continue to come through. Look who's in the side chat already. We got Doki Doki, the Christian Carpenter, Vitalis. What's up? Despiritos, how y'all doing? Appreciate you guys coming by to check out the little random rants that'll be going on here. So, I tell you what, folks, it's been an interesting week or past week for me of just observing things that have been considered categorically false conspiracy theories. If you think this, therefore you are some kind of whacked out nut job who is uninformed, so on and so forth. And then what, yet again, that position taken by lefty atheists being negated once again. So I don't know how many people have been paying attention, but over the past couple of days, there's been a few updates in the world of the viruses and all the things that entailed with it, such as ivermectin is now a recommended antiviral according to the CDC of the United States of America. So think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Going back to 2020 all the way through to 2021, that was directly stated to not be safe even to give to humans as a prophylactic or even as any potential treatment. In fact, if you took it, you had a greater likelihood of demise. Like if you did this, it's just crazy. Anybody who's pushing this is just some kind of uninformed, doesn't know a darn thing about science. And well, it's now recommended by the CDC. Interesting. In conjunction with that, I'm wondering if this is part of the reason that the CDC magically shifted their position. But yesterday, August 31st, in the year of our Lord, 2022, a massive study from Brazil was published. And guess what they found, ladies and gentlemen? They found that people who were regular users of ivermectin as a prophylactic had a 92% reduction in death. 92%, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it is just astonishing. There was a also massive reduction, I think 68%, in people who used it sporadically. So if you were taking it on a regular basis, you basically had almost nil chance of dying. It turns out, actually, a grand total of 2 people who were regular users died. 2. Grand total of 2, folks. Out of a 7, there was a total of, I think, like 78,000 people in the study. And of that, the regular users, a grand total of 2 died. I mean, now, of that number, the regular users was like 8,000 and some change. But not only did they have a massive reduction in infection itself, a grand total of 2 died. They were elderly and they had comorbidities. So for all of the clown shows who've been running around arguing that anybody who was, pushing this was just uninformed and uneducated, just clearly, once again, showcases that we have brainwashed idiots who are running around claiming to be experts and to, be able to just eviscerate anybody who disagrees with the standard talking points from the CDC and the FDA as somehow just not being qualified to understand. But I remember this being discussed at large for a long time. And it was ironic is many platforms actually banned people for talking about it. But now it's brought around full circle and it's now formally recognized by the CDC. So I wonder if people will be eligible to file lawsuits for being banned for something that's now approved, or for all the doctors who literally lost their licenses for being willing or for trying to prescribe it, or the people who went to court and insisted and couldn't, and very often were not unable to get courts to rule in favor of this sort of thing being able to be prescribed to their family members who are now dead. I wonder now, ladies and gentlemen, if the fact that it is now recommended as an antiviral, that somehow those people will be able to have their good day in court, and we can, look at things from a different perspective. But just like with the Evo atheists running around, oh, well, the consensus opinion is that there is no way, shape, form, or fashion that we could be the result of a created, or the necessity of a creator for us to exist. No, no, no. Because the consensus says otherwise, therefore, you must be incorrect. Same thing with, whether or not the Earth is young, old, or otherwise is irrelevant to the fact that people who argue in favor of old Earth claim that it must be true because it is the consensus, even though there are people, a minority of folks, who claim that they are incorrect. Therefore, those people must be wrong because the consensus says otherwise. I mean, same thing with abiogenesis. Oh, well, to me, abiogenesis is even more of a crazy outlier in terms of people claiming that the consensus is, well, if you have an even lower likelihood of abiogenesis taking place without the necessity of a preceding intelligent agent. But because the consensus is that at some point in the future, some undetermined point, we will figure this out. Therefore, your position is wrong. Well, I just ask you to think for yourselves momentarily and wonder if it is more likely that they are the ones who do not think for themselves, who do not actually contemplate the big picture, nor are doing what is necessary from a critical thinking perspective to truly analyze the available information and then reach a conclusion that is the things I always talk about. It is logical, plausible, and probable, all three simultaneously, not just one individually separated, and can result in a likely rational conclusion that would be correct. But that's just me. What's up, Zach? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. Just some drug smuggler. What's up, full of hearsay? How you doing? Kevin's biblical discussions. What's up? What's up? How you doing? One only Young Earth Creation, aka Raw Matt. How you doing? Also known as the Matt Man. How are you? Hillary's emails. Did you hear that they banned Quaker Oats as horse food? Oh man, it's astonishing all the stuff that's going down. By the way, folks, if anybody, I will see if I can find that link and I'll post it in the comments when I get done because I'm on my phone right now. I can't do all this stuff. But the that paper that I was referring to on the antiviral treatment. I mean, if you just go through it and read the data, I mean, it is just an absolute chainsaw to the standard position that was around for 2 years. I mean, and it's still being perpetuated by some quote unquote experts. Actually, a couple days ago, I had a pretty entertaining stream on Clubhouse and was calling out some of these folks. Like almost 1,000 people came to it. It was crazy over the course of the stream. And it was just so amazing how these individuals were continuing to perpetuate the same talking points. And I'm like, and then I think it was it was the day after I had that stream that paper got published. And I'm just like, so I listened to quote unquote experts tell me how I didn't know what I was talking about. The data did not substantiate the arguments I was making. And then the following day, a gigantic study comes out and directly supports the arguments I made, but I was told I was incorrect on. I mean, it's very similar to, not to jump around here too much, but it's very similar in relation to like assembly theory. Okay, so we now recognize that it is not like, it is like we can definitely quantify. You would have to have preceding information and mechanical actions in order for this level of complex molecule to form. We can now quantify that. We have a model for it. But we're still going to argue that in relation to the origin of life on our planet, somehow that would not be required. But then somebody like myself, who has been arguing, and many others who've been arguing well before the formulation of the assembly theory model, have been arguing, well, based on basic common sense of knowing improbability and the possible pathways, which is exactly what they quantified, right? Based on this number of, steps that would be required, it seems much more rational to conclude that a preceding intelligent agent will be required. And then now the abiogenesis researchers are still claiming that having a creator is not the more likely conclusion. I mean, you can't make it up. You can't make it up on all of the ongoing standard talking points that we hear ad nauseum that just prove beyond doubt that the vast majority of Evo atheists and academics do not think big picture, nor are they willing to challenge standard materialistic and naturalistic paradigms and starting points in relation to what is the most likely end conclusion for their points. What's up, Hurricane Havoc? No, you didn't miss much, man. I did a very short. I'm doing my Thursday afternoon short stream while waiting for my daughter at her uh, singing class. Sitting in the parking lot, just doing it on the phone. So did a real short uh, little countdown clock. None of the big stuff. And now we're just doing a little quick rant on folks. Honesty Angel, what's up? Welcome. Good to see you. And Jerome, I think I forgot to call you, shout you out as well. What's going on? How y'all doing? All right, so right now, unless anything crazy happens, I am planning this weekend to do at least one live stream out in the field. And what I'm thinking about doing is having I'm gonna set up the booth and the cameras and sign, right? And then just in Centennial Park here in Nashville. Excuse me. And we'll have the stream going live. And if anybody wants to hop on and talk to me while I'm live, we can do that. But then if like anybody stops by, like real humans stop by and want to engage and join the conversation, then we will uh, shift from talking online, and then you guys still be able to watch it, right? But then I'll sit down and have like a one-on-one conversation with human beings live in real time, like with me in the same spot. So I'm hoping that will go well. It is Labor Day weekend. Nashville's a tourist town, and people are already arriving out the wazoo. So I'm hoping we won't have rain, weather will stay good, and I'll be able to go out and test the hypothesis of whether or not the live stream concept can be a hit, and hopefully engage people. And if it doesn't really gain much traction at Centennial Park, I'm probably going to go downtown to Broadway area and do some like more Mark Dice street style interview stuff. But that'll be a little more difficult to pull off. Plus, it's much louder, and people will be drunk as a skunk. Now, I can get a ridiculous amount of hilarious content, I'm sure, of just people. I mean, you have no idea the hilarity that is Broadway, Nashville. I mean, there is it's such a dumpster fire of hilarity, but I definitely want to definitely want to see how it all goes, and hopefully get some good content, get some good conversations, and we'll see what ends up coming of it. Hopefully it'll be a hit, because if it is, football season is starting, and with Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt football. Well, the reason I'm really hoping that Centennial Park will be a hit is it is directly across the street from Vanderbilt University, and maybe maybe a third of a mile, probably more like a quarter of a mile from the stadium. So people on game days and stuff, there's tons of folks over in Centennial Park on top for the games and stuff, on top of all the people that are going to Centennial Park for the Parth to go look through the Greek Parthenon replica. And then there's a bunch of locals that come and play frisbee and volleyball and just picnic and that kind of stuff. So I think it could be a massive hit and potentially draw a lot of folks. And if this weekend goes well, I'm planning on probably invest some more money and get some some much bigger, about I'm thinking like 2.5 foot by 4 foot banners printed up that would people able to read them from a much further distance, so they wouldn't have to be in as close proximity to where we'll see what exactly the content will be about. So we'll see what happens. What's up, Gooseneck? Good to see you. How are you? Hurricane says, LPP, did you have any link to that Alzheimer's research fraud scandal? No, I did not, but I am very familiar with it. And yes, that was Actually by some attorneys. I guess they were trying to hire him kind of as an expert witness sort of thing, is what I gauged from the articles I've read on it. And when he dove into kind of the peer-reviewed standard position on how things needed to be approached in relation to Alzheimer's research, yeah, he quickly identified that there was all sorts of Photoshop work that was going on and the imagery. They had modified the data, and there's all sorts of stuff that was going on. And after blanket denial, they finally caved and admitted that yes, what they did was true, and the paper's been retracted and all this kind of stuff. But there's no telling how many hundreds of millions of dollars have not been invested into researching cures for Alzheimer's under that auspice. And I think that puts back into perspective the things that we've talked about many times about, like, is peer review actually all that it's cracked up to be? And if not, then why are we being told, with zero question allowed, that maybe peer review is not the only option or the only thing that should be considered? And beyond that, perhaps peer review is not quite as highbrow as they like to claim it is. And I would say that's probably the more likely conclusion. It's not quite as highbrow as they claim, but we'll see what happens. Let's see. Jerome says, "That'll be awesome, John. I'll be out in the sticks for the weekend. We'll have to catch the stream when I get back." Yep. Hopefully, I'll have it all good to go. The gospel was peer reviewed by the apostles, and yet they reject it. Yeah. Well, I mean, listen. Some atheists have read things and decided that they cannot be true, therefore they're not true. It's fascinating. Let's see. Aim needs a buffet of people to speak to. That's very true. Now, it's not quite the same as University of Alabama, where I went to school, and game days there are nuts. It's actually kind of funny. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, actually becomes the largest city in Alabama on game days, and it's just a madhouse. So amazing, the fun and frivolity that can be had in good old T-Town on game day. Same thing like Auburn. Auburn, I don't think Auburn gets quite to the level of Tuscaloosa, but I may have a little bit of bias, because, I am leaning one way when it comes to the Iron Bowl, but that's just me. So, in other news, this may crack some of y'all up. France received the news from Gazprom that they will be getting no more gas from Russia as of yesterday, or the day before. And so the French are like, "Oh, we're going to be fine. We've got all this stuff." And the Russians are like, "Well, okay, cool. So no more gas for you." And so they're shut off. In Germany, they're still trying to claim that it's not as bad as it really is, while simultaneously recommending to their citizens, you might want to start chopping down trees and getting your firewood ready, because we're not too far off from wintertime, and we may not have the ability for you to have heat. So get ready, and you might want to start a fire. I mean, we're talking about the industrial leader of Europe and one of the biggest players in the world is now being like, we may not have enough power for you to have the heat on this winter, so prepare to return to the everything prior to the 17th or the 1800s, I guess. I mean, it's truly amazing. But in line with that, the United States is not that far away from the same thing that was already happening in Spain and Germany, in which landlords start taking over your thermostats, and power companies external to you have been able to hijack your smart thermostat and decide what you can or cannot set your temperature to. Well, this has also come to the United States, actually Colorado, because of a power shortage. Everybody with a smart thermostat was regulated by the power company, and you are not allowed to put your air conditioning below 78 degrees. So it's 90 degrees outside. You're not allowed to turn your AC below 78. Congratulations on your your smart thermostat that you can do all sorts of fancy stuff with, control. Man, I can change the temperature from my phone. It's so awesome when I'm coming home, click. Oh yeah, no. Now they've overrode that. Can't do it. You don't get to control your own temperature anymore. I wonder how that may perpetuate towards the rest of the country in the not too distant future. I'm guessing if it's not already happening, it's probably on the next step for California. Because, and get this, folks, this is so ironic. California, country or a state that has just said you will have no more rights to purchase combustion engine vehicles in 20 after 2035, has also just announced that you're not allowed, or they're strongly recommending that you do not charge your electric vehicle, which is supposedly going to replace all of the internal combustion engines vehicles in the not too distant future. Please don't charge your car because we don't have enough energy available for you to charge your car unless you want to have blackouts and brownouts. So when you have like 3% of the car market is EVs, but you want to make it 100%. Right now at 3%, you don't have enough power being generated in order to not have blackouts if all those people plug their cars into charge at relatively the same time, i.e. peak times. So, just think about that. Think about the irony of this and how contradictory that is to common sense. If you're going to outlaw the thing that would be necessary to exist until you have generated enough power to replace the amount of energy that's used by said vehicles, but then you are also, as a state, and this is, of course, across America too, but especially in California, we're going to ban power generation from the tide. We're going to shut down nuclear power plants. We're going to ban fossil fuels. How are you going to generate the energy to do this? I mean, seriously, like, how does this make any sense? Oh, we're going to figure it out. It's going to be so much better in the future. Okay, cool. So, in what other scenario does it make sense to try to kibosh something in its entirety without having a viable alternative that can actually be substantiated in the long term, not from a finite, limited percentage perspective? I mean, in no other arena of business, industry, etc., would this be considered rational? And if you are if you were the head of a business, a corporation, and you decide to make this kind of pivot with your own production model, you would be fired. You would be fired for being an incompetent fool, or you might just bankrupt the company completely, and it no longer exists. Oh wait, that's been happening actually, folks. That kind of thing has been happening across the planet as folks try to engage in the new, you know, CSG policies, and like, we're going to engage in the social credit score, and we're going to make sure that everybody is just compliant with completely moronic policy positions that don't actually solve problems. They cause a bunch of issues. And oh wait, you're attempting to implement a technocracy into the modern civilization, and then tell the rest of us that we're not allowed to think otherwise because we're not smart enough to think for ourselves. And guess what? Even the quote unquote experts in these different fields, they also are not smart enough to have opinions, because only the true oligarchy is able to make the final decision about what is and what is not allowed to be executed. Doesn't matter if you need to get authorization from 17,000 layers of bureaucracy in order to make a pivot. The pivot will be made at some point, and we will make the adjustment. But doing it on the fly, that is just not going to be acceptable. In no way, shape, form, or fashion will that be allowed. Now, what is this noise? Oh my goodness! Really, really, dude? Of course, the leaf blower is about to walk by me. Hang on one second, folks. something else that's really cracking me up about electric vehicles is the Ford just did a release and a test of their new electric powered truck, F-150 or whatever electric truck, and the range of towing was 98 miles. I mean, think about that for a second. Oh yeah, I can tow something for 98 miles. Right. So let's think about this. For the guys, let's say you're a landscaping company. You've got a trailer that you're towing around. It's got your, you know, lawnmowers and weed eaters and all that kind of stuff they got, right? Do you not think that those guys drive at least 98 miles in one day? I would imagine it's probably a bit more than that. So, and the other thing that's funny is, when you run out of electricity charge, it takes about 2 hours in an op like a high speed charging station. It takes about 2 hours to get going again. So, I mean, cool. So we started off in the middle of the day out, towing XYZ. Then we just decided to take a 2 hour break in the middle of production to charge, and then we were able to get on to the next destination. I mean, it's like the people who are designing these things only think about the necessities from I mean, I can like from a commuter perspective to an office. Like, I mean, I drive. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't think most people commute more than about 100 miles. So, I mean, as long as you can get to the office and potentially charge while you're like inside, you're working, and then when I leave, I'll be fine. We should be like, at least have a half charge by the time I get out of here, and then I can charge when I get home. So it's totally fine. It's like, listen, I know that you do all your design work like in your little office, and you commute from home, or maybe heck, at this point, you're a work from home individual, and are not really thinking about like the people who are using the truck and the highest buyer type that are using it for work. They're probably needing to not have to worry about running out of energy, because I mean, from that perspective, I mean, well, here's a potential solution. If you're working in construction or some kind of like, you know, manual labor, it might make sense to mount a generator in the bed of your truck. That way, you could plug your truck into your generator while you're driving and then be recharging it with fossil fuels while you're driving or when you're parked. I mean, you're parked, you guys are like cutting the yard or like unloading stuff for the house being constructed or whatever. You just turn on your generator and charge the truck while you're waiting. I mean, that would be so much more efficient and just like save the planet so much better, because your car, your truck isn't going to have, it's not going to be having any CO2 emissions, folks. I mean, and just because we passed it off onto your generator, I mean, that's totally fine. But anyway, I could have a WTF 98 miles. Great. I can make it 75% of the way to my fishing spot. Exactly. It's crazy. Let's see. Gurmania has shown up. He says, "Well, if it isn't the ultimate beta male, aka logical, plausible, probable." I know. I'm so beta. 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 Although I would say that beta definitely is the appropriate title for wannabe Professor Dave. I tell you what, that quote unquote debate he had with Jesse Lee Peterson, where he was forever classified as beta, was just too good. I think that's part of the reason that wannabe Dave is like so butthurt and trying to like attack all the Discovery Institute guys, James Tour, etc. It's like I got so utterly decimated and forever branded a beta. I need to take on a few folks and like try and substantiate myself as a non-beta, and then I can actually take on alphas, and I can go. I won't talk to them toe to toe. I mean, even when they offer to fly me to their town or they will fly to my town and put me up, I'll pay for everything. No. I won't debate them face to face, but I'll talk a bunch of trash. Oh wait, yep, that's wannabe Dave. That's actually atheists all over the place, right? Don't want to actually go toe to toe with the vast majority of the folks who are willing to challenge them. Ray says electric cars are a solution looking for a problem to solve. That's very true. Very true. Make tarmac photosynthesis and make tires conductors. Problem solved. Like trains, no power is actually stored. Yeah. Well, I mean, I tell you what, if we ever figure out how to to actually connect to photosynthesis, that'd be pretty amazing. Imagine if you could like be plugging into your tree or like your grass, your yard could be hijacked for energy. That'd be pretty awesome. Hmm. Okay, so I'll be wrapping this up here in just a second because we're almost at 5 o'clock Central Time, which is when my daughter's class will be getting over. She'll be coming out here. Get to spend some time with her. See, Keycomb says, "Yep, Obama destroyed our coal industry." That is very true, very true. And Biden is shutting down oil production left and right. This canceled some more uh, oil leases because and says they need to go be reconsidered and their environmental impact by the Department of Interior. So basically means some things that were already authorized and going into production are now not going into production while we're having an energy crisis around the freaking planet, folks. Across the planet, it is getting pretty nuts. Everybody is in full scale meltdown from an energy perspective. Oh, so in the UK, electricity prices have gone up 12x, and it's similar across Europe. And they're already projecting it's going to go up. There was actually a report that came out from England, like an official report. They're expecting that in January, their inflation will be 22.5%. But nothing to worry about, folks. Economies are not going to tank in the winter. Inflation is going to be up another 22% on top of where we're already at, but that's nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. Just like here in America, our rents are going through the roof, food prices are going through the roof. Oh, and all sorts of grocery store chains have already announced that they're expecting that they're getting ready to implement on a lot of products 2 to 3x price increase on all sorts of products. So prepare yourselves, folks. I'm guessing it's going to hit somewhere in the not too distant future. But with that note, I see my daughter walking towards me, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the day. And I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Have a good one.